Greetings, folks. Awaken Israel. 24th installment here as we started to count recently. And today I want to cover something in the Apocryphal books because you don't get those very much, and haven't read them enough myself. And there's things that need to be discovered in that. But first, I want to bring you up to date on what's going on. Not that I know it all at all. I don't like to get into the drama surrounding Trump and all that stuff. We have an imbecile in office. He's a Chi-Com agent. I think Trump is also sold out. I think he's an Israel first sort of president. He'll do anything for Israel. And I think that his mentor or owner, Sheldon Adelson, his number one donor, got his money's worth. He wanted the Golan Heights to become part of Israel, and Trump sure as hell stole that from the Syrians and gave it to Israel. Big mistake, stealing other people's property and giving it away. But I'm finding that's the norm today. We have stolen from the Russian oligarchs. No reason for it, to be honest with you. And it's theft. It shouldn't stand. We have a few problems with that. And I think that the nicest thing I heard was about the committee on the weaponization of the government against the American people. Those 20 holdouts in the Congress secured that new committee. They want to investigate the weaponization of the FBI, the DHS, ATF, everything in the government. And I think that's a good idea because even our own Department of Defense is actively waging war on us. FDA stands for Federal Death Administration. You need to understand these guys read the Bible too, and they play by it. They use it like a rule book, a guide, and they're doing their best to become God, to administer the judgments that are in the Bible, which is really pretty twisted if you ask me. That's not what I would call a baby step or a baby Christian sort of thought. That's pretty much out there and advanced and on the fringe. So you might keep that under your hat and not mention it to too many people because they're going to think you're nuts. We have got some hope. I presented to the public that if we had 10,000 lone wolves or 10,000 judges, like in the book of Judges in the Bible, it wouldn't be enough. This thing is all set up against us. It also would be a violation of God's laws because he's put these people in power for a reason. Because we've turned our backs on him, we've become his enemy. And he used his Barak, his sword of lightning, his double-edged sword, his glittering sword, against his enemies, those who hate him. We in the United States of America have come to hate Yahweh. There's no other way to that's what we need to admit. That's where we are. And I have hung out with some folks with what I thought were expansive views and understanding. Now I'm finding out there's much more to be understood and much more to expand to. So we do need to be aware of the fact. Now, I just took a guess that the Paleo-Hebrew language, which was based on the Phoenician alphabet, borrowed, that it came from Polynesia, and it turns out it's absolutely correct. But things went to Polynesia first, and there's some major catastrophes and some really incredible stuff over there. And I've been listening to this Skeletons in the Cupboard series. I'm on the second part of it, and it is fascinating how incredibly rich and related we all are on the planet. And there's another book that's come out recently called The Leaders of Evil. And they point to a group that I thought was extinct and not on the planet at all. I haven't had a chance to delve into that book, and I've got too much going on with my own messy life that I've got to get to. But there are some incredible things in the Apocrypha, and I've got the Authorized King James Version here in my hands. It's really tiny print, and there's some stuff in here that's just pretty incredible. I'd love to be able to turn right to the return of the Messiah. Yeshua is detailed in here as to what he does. He's got some significant weaponry. He just vaporizes people. Yeah, armies and generals and stuff. He protects the flock that depend upon him, and that's it. This is so rich, and I haven't spent enough time in it all. I really haven't. Now, I also have a modern English version. So this is the Old English version. And the problem is that the source for some of these, it says the Latin Vulgate. The Latin Vulgate would be the edition that the public gets, not what the priests get. And then here, in the middle of this Bible, the New Oxford Dictionary, well, annotated Bible with the apocryphal books, is the New Revised Standard Version. It's modern English. The problem is they really took too much liberty with this. There are verses that they added to it and verses they took out of it completely. So it lacks the spirit of the King James. It actually destroys it in several ways. So it's a hard one to recommend, but you've got modern version of the apocryphal books and you have longer versions, which indicates to me that they weren't from the Latin Vulgate. They might have been for the priestly copy for the priests. So I want to do the apocryphal books, and we're going to have to choose sources. It's a little bit harder than what I think the publisher realizes. But I don't know, maybe it would happen really fast. Maybe it would be easy to do. I just don't know. And these books are in different order between these. And you can also get it in the modern Catholic Bible, the Douay-Rheims Bible. I don't have one. I was trying to borrow one, and they call them deuterocanonical books to correct us. And of course the Catholics had this all along, and the Protestants took it out. However, the Catholics think they had it, but they got it, altered versions. They got the public dumbed down version, where things were hidden from them. And I really want to get this going. If any of you out there know somebody who's pretty wealthy, man or woman, who would like to actually donate to the cause, I would gladly accept. It'd be a large donation to pull this off. It's not going to be cheap. But I'd gladly accept that gift. I'd send it right to the publisher. However, if you have somebody who has the wealth and doesn't have it invested and is looking for something to get a return on, I would entertain that. I would do my best to sell the publisher on that. And I think that would be reasonable. If the person takes, he needs 5,000 copies. Let's just say they're $30 a piece if we do a print order, whatever they call it, but it won't be the good paper. That's a lot of money. Maybe we could do that for half of that fee. But if we want the good paper and all that, we got to have 5,000 commitments. And I want to produce a copy right in the Bible, like this large full copy with all 80 books. That's how many books should be there. And there are 36 more books mentioned in the Bible proper itself that aren't in here, and some of them aren't available to us. And some folks have told me that there's supposed to be 100 books in the Bible. Other people say 150 books. I don't know. I do know that it would be nice to have access to all that stuff. And there's a lot of scholarly work ahead of us, a lot to be done. But at this point, the most important thing is survival. And so we have the evil ones who are busy ruling over the rest of us, and they're doing it in absolutely horrible ways. To be part of that power structure, they require you to really compromise yourself. They require you to do horrible, horrible things. horrible things that they do. And these are basically the enemy of, I will call it, all mankind. And I know the Bible just has a couple of different types of men in it. That's all there is. But if we look at these videos and look at these peoples, you will see that there's species of humans that have disappeared, or at least there's very few left, and they're gone into hiding, probably smartly. So, and we also know that there was a really tiny people a long time ago that were found that had their records were stored on computer disks made out of cobalt. It was like a CD, but it was made out of cobalt. So those have been around as well. And you can bet the people that run the planet have access to all that stuff, and you and I don't. So, the book of Tobit is a quaint book. It's pretty much a love story about Tobit. This book tells the story of Tobit, son of Tobiel, son of Hananiel, son of Aduel, son of Gabael, son of Raphael, son of Raguel, and the descendants of Asiel of the tribe of Naphtali. So here we have who was taken, who in the days of King Shalmaneser of the Assyrians was taken into captivity from Thisbe, which is to the south of Kadesh Naphtali in Upper Galilee, above Asher towards the west and north of Fogor. That identifies him. House of Israel, the northern tribes, removed by Assyria from the land, by the Assyrians. And so this helps identify who the Israelites are. This is one reason they took the Apocrypha out of the Bible, is because it revealed who the Israelites were. And I don't know who was in charge in the Protestant hierarchy, but I'm wondering if they were good guys or bad guys. Were they under control of the evil ones and they did this on command? Like most of Washington, D.C. That's why they get away with things in Washington, D.C. As long as they're doing, what their masters are commanding them, the people that really run the world today, it doesn't matter if they have a private server and all these classified documents, or they sell 20% of the nation's uranium to Russia. As long as they're doing, as they're directed by the rulers of evil on the planet, they get away with whatever they want. That's what we're dealing with. Nothing less than that. I, Tobit, walked in the ways of truth and righteousness all the days of my life. I performed many acts of charity for my kindred and my people who had gone with me in exile to Nineveh in the land of the Assyrians. When I was in my own country, in the land of Israel, while I was still a young man, the whole tribe of my ancestor Naphtali deserted the house of David and Jerusalem. It's divided. Northern Israel, the house of Israel, southern the house of Judah. The city had been chosen from among all the tribes of Israel, while all the tribes of Israel should offer sacrifice, and where the temple, the dwelling of God, had been consecrated and established for all generations forever. All my kindred and our ancestral house of Naphtali sacrificed to the calf that King Jeroboam of Israel had erected in Dan and on all the mountains of Galilee. But I alone went often to Jerusalem for the festivals, as it is prescribed for all Israel by an everlasting decree. Yes, that's supposed to be done in perpetuity. We should be doing it today. Temple does not exist. But I would hurry off to Jerusalem with the first fruits of the crops and the firstlings of the flock, the tithes of the cattle, and the first shearings of the sheep. I would give these to the priest, the sons of Aaron, at the altar. Likewise, the tenth of the grain, wine, olive oil, pomegranates, figs, and the rest of the fruits to the sons of Levi who administered at Jerusalem. This fellow really had a lot going for him. He was productive. Also, for 6 years, I would save up a second tenth in money and go and distribute in Jerusalem, alms to the poor. A third tenth I would give to the orphans and widows and to the converts who would attach themselves to Israel. And this guy gets 30%. I would bring it and give it to them in the 3rd year, and we would eat it according to the ordinance decreed concerning it in the law of Moses, according to the instructions of Deborah, the mother of my father Tobiel. For my father had died and left me an orphan. When I became a man, I married a woman, a member of our own family, and by her I became the father of a son whom I named Tobias. After I was carried away captive to Assyria and came as a captive to Nineveh, every one of my kindred and my people ate the food of the Gentiles. But I kept myself from eating the food of the Gentiles, probably swine's flesh and all, because I was mindful of God with all my heart. The Most High gave me favor and good standing with Shalmaneser, and I used to buy everything he needed. Shalmaneser was, it's footnoted here, D. Well, it's Greek for Enimerisos. I believe this was one of the leaders in exile. Maybe it'll tell us here. We'll go on. And I used to buy everything he needed. Until his death, I used to go into Media and buy for him there. Very trusted man. While in the country of the Media, the Medes, I left bags of silver worth 10 talents in trust with Gabael, the brother of Gabri. But when Shalmaneser died and his son Sennacherib, the king, reigned in his place, the highways into Media became unsafe, and I could no longer go there. In the days of Shalmaneser, I performed many acts of charity to my kindred, those of my tribe. I would give my food to the hungry and my clothing to the naked. And if I saw the dead body of any of my people thrown out behind the wall of Nineveh, discarded, I would bury it. I also buried any whom King Sennacherib put to death when he came fleeing from Judea in those days of judgment that the King of Heaven executed upon him because of his blasphemies. For in his anger he put to death many Israelites. That's what we were. Israelites, not Israelis, Israelites. But I would secretly remove the bodies and bury them. So when Sennacherib looked for them, he could not find them. Then one of the Ninevites went and informed the king about me, that I was burying them, so I hid myself. But when I realized that the king knew about me and that I was being searched for to be put to death, I was afraid and ran away. Then all my property was confiscated. Nothing was left to me that was not taken into the royal treasury, except my wife Anna and my son Tobias. But not 40 days passed before 2 of Sennacherib's sons killed him, and they fled to the mountains of Ararat, and his son Esarhaddon reigned after him. He anointed Ahikar, the son of my brother Hanel, over all the accounts of his kingdom, and he had authority over the entire administration. Ahikar interceded for me, and I returned to Nineveh. Now Ahikar was chief cupbearer, keeper of the signet, and in charge of the administration of the accounts under King Sennacherib of Assyria. So Esarhaddon reappointed him. He was my nephew, and so a close relative. That's chapter 1 of Tobit. This is a pretty good book. I think you ladies are going to love reading it. There's a bit of a love story. It's got some drama to it in it. And it does point out some biblical truths, some guidance and all that. And we have the angel Raphael mentioned in here, who interceded for him. And we have a woman who had been married 5 times, and all 5 of her husbands died because of some demon that possessed her or something like that. and he was next in line to marry her. They had the right of kinsman, redeemer, kin, and he was afraid. The angel helped him and told him how to protect himself. And he sets a pretty high standard for marital stuff. He's actually quite a guy. He's got some incredible stuff about him. And there's some great, he offers a really incredible prayer. Guy's got a heart of gold. And he's a wealthy man at that. We learn that Raphael is one of the seven angels who stand ready and enter before the glory of the Lord. So he was like upper echelon dude. And there's prophecy about gathering Israel in the future. Scattered among the nations, and he will gather them in the future. And that's where we are. And we have no idea how many nations are still around. The New Zealanders are busy claiming that all those people that were there first, that they're all gone and disappeared. Oh man, their children are there. And they keep telling them that they don't exist. And the elders are like, that's not right. I'm here. They say, we're here. We have the prophet Nahum mentioned. Nineveh was in the upper part of the Tigris River, and it was in the land of Assyria, and they placed the Israelites between Assyria and the Medes to protect the Assyrians from the Medes. Eventually, the Israelites joined forces with the Medes, and they went down and destroyed Babylon. And then after that, the Israelites took up across the Caucasus Mountains. That's why we're called Caucasians. And they broke into Europe, into lands that were not inhabited. And they went about. That's the modern English. But they take stuff out of there and put it in there. And here in the old King James Version, things are in different orders. The book of Tobit isn't the first book like it is in the New Revised Standard. This is after Esdras. 1 Esdras, 2 Esdras, very important prophetic books. And then we get into this. And the English is quaint, the syntax is different. And you have to remember that the syntax of the original English seems like it's backwards to us. Why is it backwards to us? It's backwards to us because it's closer to the old language, in which, things came in a different order, a peculiar order of structure. And this was back before we reversed that syntax and we have modern English today. So things occur built physically in the opposite order. And why would that be? That is because originally we read from right to left. And of course, by the time early English came about, we were reading from the left to the right. The old saying is that those nations that fell west of the Tower of Babel read from the west towards the Tower of Babel, from the left to the right. And those who fell to the east side of Babel, the adage was that they read from the right to the left. I don't know if that's accurate at all, but it's worth mentioning. I have great hope after hearing about this committee on the weaponization of government against the people. However, I think that my advice to you is to get the best copy of the Bible you can, buy one of mine, follow that link down there, and you'll see 5 different formats available. And if you do me a favor and give the publisher, drop him an email, send the office You'll call the office up and ask to be put on the waiting list to get the Apocryphal books. If we can get enough interest going for it, we're going to get that. Now, what's the advantage of the proper name version of the King James Bible? Several advantages. Forgive me for bending over here and getting so close to the camera, the cell phone. But the number one thing is we have the proper name of Yahweh restored here. The second thing is we've got the proper name of Yahshua and the title Messiah in here. The word Christ, Christian, and Christians, those are mentioned in here as well. His name is Yahshua, which means he who saves the anointed. And his nickname would be Yah, just like Yahweh's nickname would be Yah. Yah is similar to Yah, like Jawohl, mein Kommandante. Yah in German. Yes, German means genuine. That is why we went after them so much in the last century, was to destroy those people so that the evil ones could take the power and rule the world. And we do have one world order, one world government today, and don't call it a new world order. These guys are old relics from the past that have been allowed to do this across the last 6 earth ages, from what I can tell. Don't hold me to it. Do your own research. So you will learn the proper name of the Creator Father and His Son. And we can argue about whether or not that's His Son or that's Him in the flesh. There's arguments for both of that. Both of those intellectual arguments are supported in the Scriptures. And that's okay. You'll find me arguing one way or the other, and I finally had to realize they're both in here. It's not just one way. It's like the people in New Zealand wanted to find one people, the one way they got there. And I got news for you. The people in Hawaii came from Alaska first. Yeah, that's in there. That's in this video that I'm watching. So we're all much more interrelated than what we realize. And I think one of the things we have in common is that we all get most of our genes from the bionome. In other words, from the environment. From, well, the parasites that live on our bodies, on our skin, and in our bodies. Those contribute genetics to us. And it sounds pretty creepy, I know. But I'm hearing that those give us more of our genes than our mother and father did. I still don't understand that. You know, Mercola had a fellow on who was a doctoral level in genetics, and that's what his claim was. And if that's the case, then that means we can't live off Earth. In order to be Earthlings, we have to be right here so we can take advantage of that genome that is right here. I'm reading from Zechariah 5 in the proper name version of the King James Bible. And I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said to me, "What do you see?" The angel asked him. And I answered, "I see a flying roll." Not a scroll, a roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits. A cubit's about 18 inches, so it's about 30 feet long. And the breadth thereof, 10 cubits, so it's about 18 feet. And then he said to me, "This is the curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth. For every one that steals shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and every one that swears shall be cut off as on that side according to it." Kills both ways, right? You need to understand what this thing is. This thing is a roll, a tube, a missile flying through the air. And the size of it is the same size of the MIRV missiles that exist today. They're about 20 cubits, about 30 feet by about 15 feet, 10 cubits. This is the curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth. So here we have Zechariah. Look at it. Come on, take a good look. Zechariah 5, I got it highlighted. I didn't discover this. Rex Tibosaurus discovered this and 10 years ago put up a 3-part series on YouTube. It was so complete that you're not going to see me trying to do it. I don't need to do it. Rex, I had to put on there. I said, seems right to me. He loved the comment. And that was an old video of his. He's right. I didn't know he was such a Bible scholar, but he certainly knows his Bible. And he gets into this. And this is what you got to do. You got to read this and go back to the root words to get to it. And that's what Rex did. Zechariah chapter 5, verse 7. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this is a woman that sits in the midst of the ephah. So an ephah was a basket-like thing. And what was in it was a woman. And this woman is regarded as evil. It's not a woman. I thought it was referring to the female gender. Yes, I admit that. Okay, shortcoming on my part. What does Rex say? It can mean, and probably does mean, sacrificial fire. A nuclear bomb. This is their resemblance through all the earth. This is the nuclear war that we're about to experience, perhaps. We live in Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, and just like Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors were all nuked, we have the physical evidence, so will we if we do not repent. So you need to understand, 2,500 years ago in the Bible, this seemingly minor, insignificant prophet, if you will, was shown the nuclear war of the future, and he put it into words as best he could. It wasn't in context for him at all. He did the best he could do. And he gave us this record. So you need to realize that this is what's in store for us. And this is what the evil ones want as well. And that's why we're in the Ukraine. You see, the idea is not to get after Russia as much as it is to destroy America. That's what the purpose of this war is. It's not what you think. Thou shalt wage war by art of deception. That's what's going on. Then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork, and they lifted up the ephah between the earth and heaven. So they're taking the basket up. They're taking the nukes up in the air. And he said, this is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Rex believes that this is the trigger mechanism. I'm thinking it might be some sort of a lead shield, perhaps. Who knows? And he's, oh boy, all right, I got to continue. I've taken those verses out of order. One was 9, anyway, read 8. So let's go to 10. Then said I to the angel that talked to me, where do these bear the ephah? Where are they going with these MIRVs, with these missiles? And he said to me, to build a house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established. So set there upon her own base. Where's the land of Shinar today? Yeah, come on. Some of you might take a little bit of time. The land of Shinar is right where old Persia was, part of old Persia. The Iranian part. The other part was Iraq. Those were the modern nations that the British decided to create to keep those people divided. I guess they were trying to do peaceful stuff, or maybe just put them at each other's throats so they could control them. I'm just checking. I made myself a nice cup of coffee. I had one. I'm going to get the second one into me here. It's getting kind of late. I exercised today. I pumped iron. I don't know if you can see any difference. I can't. I didn't take that much in the way of carbs to pump up, and I'm getting to be an old man. You know, it's harder now. It is harder. So you can get into this and read it. I'm not going to read any more to you today. I want to keep this kind of short. I think we have half a hope to get the nation back. If we don't get this nation back, then we certainly will be nuked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The only question is, since the sun is becoming active again right now, and for those of you who do not know, it is the sun that is the pit, and the angel is up there that controls the pit. And when that thing goes active, which happens it's on cycles. An earth age is about 12,000 years. That's in the Apocryphal books, by the way. And so about every 12,000 years, we have a major catastrophe on the earth. The sun gets active, and it energizes the earth, and it causes earthquakes and volcanoes. Volcanoes erupt, earthquakes happen. It also tears up our magnetosphere, and we lose quite a bit of it. And part of the result of that is that there's mass insanity on the planet. It affects us that way. It affects our minds and our spirits. Your spirit is more electromagnetic, and it is an electric universe. And so the sun sends out these electrical pulses throughout it and causes havoc on the earth. This time, it's going to devastate. Last time it devastated North America and I believe South America. Next time it's going to devastate Europe and Africa. It's not going to be as bad as last time from what I've been hearing. Some people think it could be worse, but I don't think we're due for it. If you want to know the time scale, you look at the geological record and you will see folds in the earth, primarily in Arizona, around the Grand Canyon, up in Navajo area, and you will see these folds in the mountains, beautiful layers, like God decided to make a lamination in the earth, and you will see white layers upon white layers upon white layers, and then about every fifth one will be black. And I believe that the black layers, when the volcanoes go the hell off, and it's really bad. You talk about a nuclear winter. You could go without any seasons and nothing could grow for 2 years as a result of those. But that's about every fifth one. So 60,000 years, 120,000 years, that's when that stuff goes off. The 12,000 years is when you get the little limestone, sandstone deposits. And by the way, that's not done slowly. It's like instantaneous. It all happens in one day, a few minutes. How do we know that? The dead creatures that are in certain layers of the limestone in the Grand Canyon were all oriented in a certain way, a peculiar way, and that could only happen if it was an instant cataclysmic event. If you could like this video, I certainly would appreciate it. If you subscribe, very good. Buy one of my Bibles. Leave comments. Tell me what you think down below. If you got anything out of the video, wonderful. If you're not, then let me know which way to go. Look, the Spirit is going to speak to you differently than it speaks to me. And you may actually be there, and you may be there for me, and you might just cue me up on something I got to pay attention to. A guy on Facebook did that yesterday, and I'm discovering this stuff in New Zealand. And we did indeed come from Polynesia. We went through there, let me put it that way. And the Polynesians came from Persia, land of Shinar, maybe? You know where that is. Okay, folks. Thanks for hanging with me this long. I hope you've been blessed by this and got something out of it. This is episode 24, and I think that basically the basic message here is to repent, to return to the ways of Yahweh, and then maybe Yahweh will turn to us. We'll let will forego nuking us like we deserve as Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, maybe we'll get a reprieve. Yahweh bless the Republic.